Welcome back to Eyes Open Media. Look at those clouds. Back at the basketball courts, of course. Just relaxing. Took a nice bike ride earlier today. Drop off some laundry and some other things like that. But, okay, so Sadr, I'm out of breath a little bit because I just went up the hill. But Sadr, on Friday, there was no celebration. So we got a celebration from the military, the GOI, and the CBI on Thursday, but no celebration from the citizens on Friday. More of the same, just a bunch of more people. I really thought it was going to be a celebration because I thought Abadi was going to announce the economic reforms with the 3 presidencies Friday morning. I mean, that would have been common sense, but because we're dealing with people who don't have common sense, and we're dealing with people who call their own citizens peasants, not surprised. The IMF tried to tell them, lift your value, launch the economic reforms and lift your value. And that was last Saturday. Here we are again, 7 days later. I wonder what the IMF's going to tell them this time. If I was the IMF, and if the IMF is listening, or anybody in the elites is listening, I would tell Iraq today, since it is 777 once again. If you guys didn't know that, it's 777 again. It's 7, 16, which is a 7, 1 plus 6, plus 1, 6 for the year. 777. There's another 777 coming on the 25th. 7 plus 2 plus 5 is 7, plus 1, 6 is 7. There's 3 777s this month. Christine Lagarde said 777 was decoded. She decoded that in her speech. This is supposed to be the month. Last month was the month of completion of all the paperwork, signings, and agreements, which happened. This is supposed to be the month of the launch of a lot of things launching. Forgive me for the airplane going above. But this is supposed to be the month. Where is that airplane anyway? I can't even see it. This is supposed to be the month for launching. 777 decoded 3 times. Prophet Doug, I don't know, I think it's Doug Addison or Doug something, also stated something about launching wealth and all this stuff in July for those who were supposed to have it 2 years ago. And a lot of people say, well, I was supposed to have the dinar 2 years ago. I was supposed to have the dinar a year ago. And it's been delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed. So this is supposed to be, there's 3 777. So that tells us that this is supposed to be the month that they do it. And according to the banks, that's the same thing. Okay? So the time frame for the banks is over, but they did get extended. I don't know the new date time frame. I don't know any of that stuff. All I know is yesterday, what I was told was the banks have been extended to further notice. Some of them were I guess some of them were joking around, saying, well, my God, we're gonna be here till Thanksgiving. And I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, I feel their pain because, and you know, the IMF feels their pain because the IMF is telling this country, lift your value. The IMF doesn't want to do it. They want them to do it because they're the ones that are going to have to go through a global market economy on a daily basis, not the IMF. You see what I'm saying? So people are saying, yeah, the IMF, why don't the IMF just lift the value? Yeah, they could announce it to the world, and then Iraq would have no choice but to lift the value. But you got to understand that also, the IMF isn't living day to day in that country. Iraq has to live day to day in that country doing the global market economy. If the IMF has to force them or announce it to the globe for them to force it on them, I mean, my goodness, that's not a good look. That's embarrassing. So you know, the IMF is giving Abadi a chance here to do it himself. At some point, because the activation of the Chinese yuan is coming October 1st. At some point, the IMF's gonna have to say, you know what, we gotta go, we got to go. So, because they already told us, and it's already on the IMF website, that the Chinese yuan will be activated on October 1st, 2016. It's already on the website. They're not going to delay that because, it's already on the website and it's printed and it's good to go. So Iraq's not going to delay everybody. You might think Iraq's delaying, but they still have a little bit of time, but the IMF has a time frame of when that deadline must be, because they have to have the other currencies, and of course Iran and Vietnam and South Korea and Indonesia. Those are the ones that we're following. They have to have those ones do their thing as well before the Chinese yuan is activated. You would think that I did say Vietnam could go after, but that's just not smart business. You got to make sure you're in place and good to go before Chinese yuan is activated and the SDR's point blank, because it's going to shift a lot of things in the world. It's going to shift how we do business. America's going to lose a lot of shares. American dollar is going to be devalued, and the British is going to be devalued. Like a lot of currencies are going to be shifted when the Chinese yuan comes in, and we know that the Chinese yuan is going to start off around 9%. So that means America's probably going to have to give up 5% of their shares, and then everybody else is going to give up the rest of the 4% plus that for China, and they could even bump China up to 12%. We don't know. We don't know what the Chinese final shares are going to be in the SDRs, but it's gonna drastically change everything in the SDR basket. So you know what I mean. So that's gonna start to devalue the dollar. Of course, by that time the Dow is going to be at 20,000, and if the Dow's at 20,000, guess what? We're going to see the Dow crash back down to about 12 to 15,000. So that's gonna also that should skyrocket go to 2,000 by then, and then excuse me for that, and then the dollar will probably come down under 90. Will be definitely under 90 by then, by October. So you know what I mean. So that's why they probably have a time frame. You don't see the IMF. The IMF's been talking a lot, though. The IMF has been saying a lot. They've been putting out a lot of agreements, and I think they're doing it to still show Iraq, look, we're telling the world everything that's going on, all the agreements that were signed by you, everything that was signed, the money that's coming out, we're telling the whole entire world. So you need to lift your value and launch the economic reforms, because if you don't, you have a time frame. So I'm pretty sure they gave them a time frame, and I'm pretty sure that once that time frame is over, there's no longer in Abadi's hands, and the IMF will announce it to the world, and all restrictions will be off the currency, and the world will be able to do business with Iraq, even if they like it or not. Okay, so that's what's coming, and that's sad if that's going to be the case. That is truly sad if that is the case. Okay, so Abadi just needs to go ahead and do it, because the IMF's going to do it for him anyway. So you might as well just be the pretend legend, be the fake legend. You know what I'm saying? Instead of being somebody that the IMF had to tell, they had to force them back in the global market economy, and now you're like, oh man, I'm back in the global market economy. I didn't even want this. You know what I'm saying? So you might as well just embrace it, because it's already coming, and you've already signed the pay. So here's the thing: they've already signed these paperwork, and the government, overall government has signed these paperworks, but you got these little few people who are controlling everybody. I don't get that. These people in the Iraqi government are millionaires. Some of them are billionaires, and they're allowing a few bunch of crooked people to control everything they do. How can you have a majority signing of documents with the IMF, but still telling everybody don't raise the value, don't launch the economic reforms, don't do this, don't do that, and then Abadi's sitting over there just listening to them. So he tells the citizens, yeah, we're gonna launch the economic reforms. Here we are, July 16th. No economic reforms have been launched. The only thing that's been launched is the agricultural sector. They launched that, and they put I don't know how much money I think $1 billion plus into it, 1 billion stimulus into the agriculture sector. So they launched the agriculture sector. That's it. They did have something like 100 industrial companies that were, I guess, getting funded as well. But I don't think that's a semi-launch of the industrial sector. We hope to hear more about that this week. Them fully launching the industrial sector. Sun's coming out. I'm about to play some ball. Yeah. But what else, man? So Sadr Friday did his thing with the people demanding the 3 presidencies to resign, which won't happen. So I want Sadr to stop saying that, because it's just not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? So we just need, instead of saying them to resign, just tell them to get on the ball. You know what I mean? Launch the economic reforms. Look, when you got a million people, when you got 1 million plus people out there, ain't no reason them economic reforms ain't passed today, Sadr. Let me repeat myself. If you got 1 million people behind you, 1 million plus came out on Friday, you got that many people behind you, you can take over a country in seconds. You can also demand the economic reforms that same day. Why haven't we seen the economic reforms? Because Sadr is working with Abadi. I mean, just think about it. This man has 1 million plus people that can come out on a Friday in Baghdad. Yet there's no economic reforms. Turkey they almost took over the government for about 15 to an hour. They had a military coup last night or this morning. I think it started around like 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time yesterday, all the way until about 7 a.m. Turkey time. They had a military coup, and them men coming there, and they were shooting nuclear bombs and missiles and taking over the streets and all types of stuff. They had to hide the president and everything, the prime minister or whoever he is, Erdogan, and all these other people at the airports and all that stuff. Look how quickly a few men can almost take over a whole country. So listen to me. This man Sadr has 1 million people, and there's no economic reforms. Ask yourself why. Because Sadr's working with Abadi. That's why. Sadr, look, if Sadr wanted economic reforms today, he's got 1 million people that can give him economic reforms. Matter of fact, Sadr could take over the whole government and be the new king of Iraq if he wanted to. He's got 1 million people underneath him. What's his name? Maliki don't even have 1 million people. I think Maliki has like 300,000 people underneath him. Abadi probably has right now, because everybody's throwing rocks at him and there's no economic reform, Abadi probably has like full 500,000 people that follow him faithfully. Maliki probably has 300,000 now. They all went to Sadr. Sadr got like 1.2 million people or more underneath him. He can rule the country. He's rich. His family's rich. They're billionaires, right? His family is billionaire. I don't know about Sadr himself, but I know he's a millionaire, but he might be a billionaire too. I don't know. But Sadr, if Sadr wanted to take over that country and raise that value and put Shabibi back in the, he doesn't need to ask anybody. He can do it himself. You get what I'm saying? So that's a prime example, and that's the evidence that Sadr's working with America and Abadi. That he's gonna say sack the 3 presidency, but he really don't mean it. Because if he really meant that he has 1 million people who can sack the presidency and kill everybody in the government in 24 hours. You see what I'm saying? So, and they're not just gonna run into the green zone and break things and break cheap chairs and break cheap desks. No, they're gonna put their military gear on. He's gonna fund them weapons. And they're gonna go in there, and they're gonna go into the green zone with 1 million plus people from all different sides, and they're gonna take over the whole government, and they're gonna arrest people, kill people, and they're gonna throw people in jail, and they're gonna release all the people from jail. They're gonna get Tabibi in there. They're gonna put new government in place, and they're gonna take over everything. That's what you do with 1 million people. You don't patty cake it. You don't come out there and say reforms. No. With 1 million people, you can do whatever you want. at any given time. So that tells you that he's working with Abadi. Shame on you, Sadr, because you could have had this thing. The people could have purchasing power right now, but you're working with Abadi. All right, so that's the evidence. Eyes open, everybody. God bless. Shalom.